This is Find Your Dream Job, the podcast that helps you get hired, have the career you want, and make a difference in life. I'm your host, Mac Pritchard. I'm also the founder of Mac's List. It's a job board in the Pacific Northwest that helps you find a fulfilling career. One of the best ways to get good at job hunting is to talk to people who do it well. That's why once a month, I interview a Mac's List reader who found a job they love. Our guest today is Gregory Day. He's the HR director at United Fire. It's an independently owned fire safety company in the Pacific Northwest. Gregory Day believes in the power of connecting with others. In a story you can find on the Mac's List website, Gregory recommends making as many contacts as possible, especially on LinkedIn, when you look for work. Why do you love your job, Gregory?
That's a great question there. Why do I love my job? Well, I love every aspect of human resources. I came in late to the career field, and I've always dealt with HR in a way that I sort of was apprehensive. So I wanted to change that perception.
Well, tell us about your work at United Fire and what you do there.
Yeah, well, I'm an HR department of one, and I'm basically responsible for everything from onboarding to offboarding and everything that's in between, managing personnel records, lots of administrative work, and employee relations. It's really the hardest part of the job, but I'm an HR generalist. I make sure we're compliant with Oregon and federal laws, leave of absence. It's definitely a generalist position.
You have an interesting background. You, as you said a moment ago, you came to HR later in your career. How did you make that career change? You had worked in different occupations. What did you find helpful, Gregory, when you were moving into a new field?
That's another great question. Just this irrational belief in myself, because I really didn't have any experience as an HR rep. My sister's an HR VP for a television station. My brother's an HR educator. Honestly, I had no background in human resources, but I think that gives me an advantage because, I can see how employees relate to HR since I didn't go to college to study human resources like a lot of HR reps do. I have that outsider perspective, and that really helps me bridge the gap between employees that really do not want to talk to HR.
And when you were making the change, how did you make the case for yourself to your employer? Because, you hadn't worked in HR. What advice would you have for someone who is making that case, who wants to switch into a new field? What did you find compelling to your employer?
Well, that's really funny, Mac. I learned a lot about HR by interviewing for HR jobs. At the time, it was post-pandemic or during the post-pandemic period, and people were desperate for workers, and I was very willing. And I'd go on interview after interview after interview. I had a very bare necessities view of what it would entail. So basically, I was applying for everything HR related, entry level, and there's not many opportunities like that. So it's quite funny that I learned by interviewing. And my own research, just that enthusiasm carried me. I think that's what got me the job, to be honest with you. I mean, just to get your foot in the door in human resources. If I had a very heavy administrative background, that really helps. And just that desire, people can really smell that desire.
What objections did you hear from employers as you were making that switch, Gregory, about changing your career, and how did you overcome them?
Objections? Well, no experience. I sold myself as an HR assistant because I did help with the onboarding when I was a trainer. I mean, I come from an IT. I just had a real passion for helping people be successful. That's really how I envisage HR as a tool to help people be successful. Just that positive attitude and self-belief really carried me with not too much knowledge, not too much knowledge at all. But I don't know why I was so confident that I could get a job in HR. It just seems crazy now that I look back on it. But it's amazing what self-belief how far that can take you in your life and career. And this goes beyond just looking for a job.
You've been in HR now for a few years, so you've done your share of hiring since you broke into the field. Um, was there, and in fact, you had are there lessons that you've learned watching people apply for positions where you work that you would share with our listeners about how to do a job search?
Lessons learned. Well, I tell you, honestly, attitude. It's just, you can really hear the enthusiasm in someone's voice. And I know I had it. And it can carry you. It can really carry you beyond the qualifications. I mean, obviously, you're going to have to hit those qualifications at the bare minimum, but it's amazing how you can talk your way into an interview. That enthusiasm, it's something that I really need to hear from an applicant. Otherwise, there's just no point. I just don't see them being successful in their role. Like I said, HR, my role is to help people be successful. And you need that enthusiasm to carry you through the tough times. I know I do.
In your article for us, Gregory, you recommended doing mock interviews before a job interview and actually meeting with employers. How did doing this help you land the job you have now?
Holy cow. I did a lot of interviews. It's, you can get rusty. I know people that I interview quite well. I get rusty. And I think it's very important to stay sharp. You can really slip, and very quickly too. I'm a really great interviewer, but I'm also really great at bombing interviews even today. Honestly, the mood, the time, how you wake up in the morning, did you have a cup of coffee? I mean, there's a lot of factors that could determine how well you're going to do in an interview.
Well, how would you practice, Gregory, I mean, to manage those factors? Because, every day is different. But were there things that you did consistently when you were practicing that helped you?
Yeah, you need to talk to people. I know it sounds funny to say that, but you need to talk to people. You need to have a social life. It really helps you in job interviews. You need to meet people. It's not interview prep per se, but when you talk about your job, like joining professional organizations like the local SHRM chapter, Parma, I mean, that's been an amazing tool because we talk about work. And I get to, I get to listen. I get more information, just having these conversations. And the thing about doing interviews is that it's an unnatural thing. And you want to make it as more natural as you can, as soon as you can. And that's something you can only develop by talking to people. And if you can talk to people in your industry, that gives you a huge advantage.
And those two acronyms you mentioned a moment ago, SHRM and PERMA, that's the Society for Human Resource Management Association and the Portland Human Resources Management Association. And those are indeed great groups. In addition to talking to people, you're also a big fan, Gregory, of making connections online. And you talked about this in your article for us, and especially doing this on LinkedIn. What difference did networking online and making connections on platforms like LinkedIn make in helping you get your job at United Fire?
Oh, it's an incredible tool. I tell you, I'm on LinkedIn constantly. The connections you can make, it's just unbelievable. LinkedIn has just become this amazing resource. It's become a social tool. It's along with a business tool. I mean, I've made friends on LinkedIn. I've made connections and I meet people. I meet up with recruiters and HR people. We have similar interests, backgrounds. Beyond HR, I've made friends on that platform. LinkedIn is incredible. A premium account, like a low-cost premium account is only $40. What an amazing value. You can connect with anybody and leave a personal message. So it's just a remarkable tool. Use it every day and post regularly, and you'll be seen as somebody a resource for other people when they're interested in talking about human resources or recruiting, et cetera, et cetera.
And did you see that benefit when you were looking for work, when you were doing your job search? Did your presence on LinkedIn come up in your interviews?
Holy cow, yes. And, you can tag people. and you can give people recommendations, and I love doing that. It's coming at it from a giving perspective. What can I offer you? People love that. It's you're making a human connection with people who have big titles. HR business partner. You're making a human connection, and you're joking about. Everybody has an interest, like they love dressing up their dog or doing crochet or yoga. I mean, I have a lot of interests like that too. You can make that personal connection.
Tell us more about the giving attitude you mentioned a moment ago, because you brought that up in your article for us as well. What do you mean by having a giving attitude, Gregory? And how did that help you in your job search?
It helps me in every aspect of my life, Mac. I mean, you don't want a friend who's always asking for stuff, you know? I want to give. What can I give you, Mac? I mean, I'm giving you content now. How can I help you? Who doesn't want a friend like that? Who doesn't want to work with a recruiter like that? Who doesn't want an HR rep like that? What can I give you? What a great way to start a conversation, And everybody has something that they need. If I have resources, I want to share them. I want to give. That's how you get. Honestly, it's such a trope, isn't it? I mean, you get what you give, and you gotta give. You gotta start by giving. It's how I recruit. It's why I'm such a great recruiter, because I want to offer people advantages. I want to offer people opportunities.
Well, it's been a terrific conversation, Gregory. Now, tell us, what is your number one job hunting tip?
Number one job hunting tip: be genuine. You have to have a genuine interest in a job, otherwise they can tell. People are very, very attuned to how much you really, really want the job. They pick up on that. I mean, there's so much for an in-person interview that you can pick up on. I mean, as far as your body language, your intonation, you really have to show a desire to want the job. And I think that's very important, to be genuine.
Well, thank you for sharing your job search story, Gregory. To learn more about Gregory Day's job search, visit maxlist.org/stories. And check out the Max List website for dozens of other success stories. On the second Friday of every month, we add a new interview with a Max List reader who's found a dream job. Go to maxlist.org/stories. In the meantime, thank you for listening to today's bonus episode of Find Your Dream Job. This show is produced by Max List. Susan Thornton Huff schedules our guests and writes our newsletter. Lisa Kislenberry Anderson manages our social media. Our sound engineer and editor is Matt Fiorillo. Dawn Mole creates our transcripts, and our music is by Freddie Trujillo. This is Mac Pritchard. See you next week.